This is the only story that I have unexplained occurrences that were strange. Nothing too crazy, but this is one of my absolute favorite stories to tell. I've told it numerous times, and um, most people get a huge kick out of it. They find it funny. Brandon, I expected a bigger reaction out of him, a bigger laugh, but we say things differently on this topic, which is quite clear.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I had moved into a new townhouse, I was also age 10. Very strange that you and I both have a similar line of, yeah, really weird. But again, matter of coincidence, I would say, but that's neither here nor there. So my story starts, we move in, it is definitely an older house than what we had lived in prior. So with an older house, and even just with a new house in general, I think that's why there's a lot of movies and a lot of, weird feelings based on moving into a new space, because there's a lot that's associated with it, right? When you're leaving another place that you've lived in, it's a home. You're leaving memories behind, not just a physical dwelling. So it's a big transition when you're going to a new house. It's going to take more than just, like the mind takes 3 weeks to adapt, sure, but it's going to take longer than that for you to get used to a new setting, being comfortable.
Is that what they say?
Then yeah, 3 weeks is about what it takes for the mind to get used to a new habit. So I would think that even past that 3 weeks, you're still getting used to new sounds, new surroundings, a new physical location. There's so much different about it that you're going to be really hyper aware of certain things that you're not used to hearing. And still, when you're 10 years old, you're still a kid at that point. You're approaching teenagers, but you are still a developing kid. So you might take things out of context or skew them or remember them differently or shape it based on how your mind wants to remember that. Because, I mean, your brain is still not a device with flash storage that has a perfect imprint of something. So I tend to look at these things a lot more, and I don't want to say logistically, but that's just how I look at it. But these are the things that I can't explain. So, you have to admit it when things are not going the way, you think they are. But anyway, so long story short story long, actually, moving to the new house, the very first weird occurrence was we had a really big stereo. It was a six disc changer that had a dual cassette on it and 2 speaker towers. I mean, it was a beefy setup for what it was. This is like, I don't know, 2003, 2004 ish in that time frame. So it just randomly turns on one night at like 3-ish in the morning, like later night, after midnight, but not before daybreak.
After midnight, well, let it daybreak, all hang down.
If you wanna believe, it can be daybreak. I think we both had 2 different songs.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's funny. So
we'll get dinged. We'll get dinged for both of them. It's cool.
There was a side note, 10-second tangent. There was one day I mentioned Barry Manilow at work, and Brandon just goes,
"What are you?" I almost.
Brandon just goes, "What are you, a gay man?" And I start cracking up, and then I go like, "What? You don't like Barry Manilow?" He goes, "My dad does. I went to a Barry Manilow concert with my dad." I said, "What is your dad, a gay man?"
It's so funny. I forgot I told you that. That was my first concert.
God. Yes, it was so funny. So anyway, so the thing just blares on. It like wakes up everybody in the house, and then we all go downstairs, and it was just weird. And like my mom, my brother, and me. My dad wasn't here at the time. We just like looked at each other, like, this is really weird. This is strange. And I didn't really think too much of it. It's a new house. Electricity could surge in a weird way. I don't know. I even know if that makes sense, but it's just something that you try to think of. So you just ignore it. Another weird thing that happened before the weirdness stopped, and then it came back later on, was we had like a crucifix. I had an Italian Catholic upbringing, very stereotypical. Yes, I get it. And Look at Brayden laughing. He gets it. So yeah, very stereotypical. But anyway, we had like like the crucifix with, Jesus on it, which is, I mean, I'm not religious by any means anymore. I'm not even agnostic. I'm pretty much atheist. I said that in the last episode, I think. So I guess I'll say it again. And, if there comes some groundbreaking news that's proven, then sure, I guess I'll have to change. But for what I believe, that's what it is. So I just think it's a little weird to have, a dead man hanging on a cross all over the house. Like, even as a little kid, it looked weird to have this like very like this statue that's life-size, like in church, of a bloody man with a crown of thorns on his head. It was just, even as a kid, it seemed real cultish. Yeah, the Catholics are different than Christians. And so anyway, yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
So the crucifix falls off the wall, and it's a nail that's in drywall. Gravity over time could knock it off. I don't know, but it falls off, and I guess maybe with the way it fell, it was the right arm of the cross broke off. Which, like the signs of the cross are like, in the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. Everything goes in a direction of the cross to signify like a hierarchy of religion of those characters in their religion. But the right arm, Jesus is seated at the right hand of like the Holy Father, just breaks off, which is like, oh, that's fucking creepy. And this was around the time the Passion of the Christ came out, and I'd seen that movie with like my grandma in the theaters and stuff. Like, I don't think I ever told you about that. I actually love that movie. I think it's a very well-made movie. And I love that Mel Gibson he's insane, obviously. But I like that he had the most ballsiest depiction of the crucifixion ever. And I love it. Because I was in a Catholic school. I'm sorry, but I have to finish that part. I was in a Catholic school at the time when Passion of the Christ came out. So it was huge for us. It was great. And like, we're at a school that, like, I said the word crap and I almost got detention, right? But we're talking about like the most goriest depiction of Jesus, but it's okay because yes. And we had like ex-nuns as teachers. It was weird. One of our coworkers went to the same Catholic school I'm talking about.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Irish Catholic. Does that ring a bell? Do you know who I'm talking about? Redhead, Irish. Can you even... You know who it is.
She's not. Oh, she still works there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, the thing breaks off, and like my mom told me about it, and it showed it to me, and I'm like, this is really super glued it together and put it back. I still think we have it, to tell you the truth. It was just really weird. And then things stopped for a little while, and a couple weird things happened in my room. The few weird experiences would be like my shirts that were on hangers would just be like on the floor, like somebody had just like, not even like they were hanging lopsided. I mean, like, granted, they were like cheap Kmart, like, here, you want to keep the hanger. I mean, it was those kinds of deals, like this was a while ago. And I just attribute it to like, the shirt had a wide opening, it fell down, whatever. But it just looked like somebody would just rip them off, and I would put them back up, and then a couple days later, they'd be back on the floor, like somebody was just toying with me. I had, a Harry Potter book. The first edition American hardcovers are this size for reference, with the stain on it. We're not going to get into detail about what it is. I like Harry Potter, okay? So we know the dimensions of the book. It's ectoplasm. So... So I had an iPod Touch at the time, which is going to be smaller than this iPhone for size comparison, but it was sitting on the center of the book like this. And I'm just sitting there. It was at the corner of my desk, and it just gets like, it just falls on the floor. Like it was swiped off, because how is it going to fall off the middle of the book? I don't know how. But I didn't see it swipe off. You know what I mean? I just see it out of my peripheral, because I'm looking at the computer screen and it's over here, and it just hit the floor. And I try to think, like, did I swing my arm up in a weird way and hit it? Like, you try to justify it in the moment, because it's like, what the, and I remember I had like a glass of water once out of my peripheral. Again, not a dead on look, but out of my peripheral, it just, I I could shit you not, it scooted over, not like slowly, like a slow scoot like in a movie, but I mean it was just like it was, this was it just went like that, real subtle, and that honestly kind of freaked me that freaked me out.
Yeah.
And I try to explain, because like when I can't explain it, and I'm like the comedy guru of science over here for whatever with ghosts, apparently, I try to think like, is it the condensation of the glass? And then I think like, that's the stupidest thing. That's more far-fetched than a ghost. So like that happened. And then
it can happen, but it's, you know, it depends if it's at an angle or not or whatever. I mean, I don't know. So it was just weird. It seemed like attention grabbing or like toying. Now I again didn't think and it's something like you said, like, and now that you mention it, I'm starting to like sound like I'm eating holes in my own logic, but I didn't really say anything to anybody about it because like that's just weird to explain. It's just like you kind of brush it off. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing like that was vividly clear as day. Like I know it happened, but I could have just like, you know, it could have been 3 a.m. It could have been 3 p.m. I mean, this is like well over a decade and change ago. So I don't remember specifically. I just remember it like that. And remember, like I said, our brains are flesh piles. They're not a hard drive with perfect replication of memories, you know, like emotions and things go into it. So I don't know. I didn't think too much of it. I didn't say anything. A lot of my family is still religious, so they believe in everything. They still like to go to church, and they're also, a lot of them are very skeptical. They believe in ghosts, the afterlife, and communication in between, almost all, which is weird that I don't, but they pretty much all do. Mm-hmm. So I had a cousin who died when he was 16. He died of the flu. He got a really bad case of it. It got to his heart and killed him. I don't know exactly how that worked and how it happened, but wow. he died from it. But they think it was negligence in the hospital because it was just a poorer part of the city that they were in at the time. Okay. Anyway, so ever since that happened, I was really young. I was maybe 3 or 4 at the time. So my memories with him are playing Sega Genesis and PS1, which my Sega Genesis and my PS1 are his. That kind of gave me goosebumps, dude. That is not weird, gonna lie. Yeah.
Wow.
Did he give them to you, or did you inherit them?
He gave them to, well, okay, so he, you know, obviously he passed on, and he has a younger brother, a couple years younger than him, who still is alive. And I was very, very, very close to my aunt. She only lived a couple blocks away from me. And when my brother had like all his surgeries and stuff, like we would go there to like for babysitting and like to sleep and stuff. So we were always like pretty close. And even like from that point on, I was still close with that cousin too. And everyone in my family was pretty close at that time when we all lived by each other. So like my grandma lived close by as well. And I have like 16 altogether, like 16 cousins all combined. Very big extended Italian family. When we all get together, it's scary because we're all not above 5'6". It's like a sea of swarthy. And anyway, so it's comedic.
It's Hobbit's End.
Yes, I love second breakfast and pipe weed, so it works out perfectly. Yeah, exactly. And I live in a hole in the ground. Literally, it's perfect. So going on.
True.
I had to get some comedy because that story was kind of creeping me out a little bit. And you know what? It's a family, so I have this emotional connection to it. So again, that might be what's amping up this like chill behind my back. But so anyway, I also have a deceased brother, which I've told you about this, but I never knew him. And so I just, I don't believe in ghost stuff, so I never really attributed to that. But now that I have some of these relics of theirs. So anyway, the PlayStation, the Genesis, I got on a tangent. I played them at the house back in the day. But they gave them to my grandma because like a lot of the cousins, we would all hang out at grandma's house, obviously. So once everybody grew up, I eventually took them in middle school because I was becoming like a huge retro gaming enthusiast, like decades before it was cool, you know?
Yeah.
Have to put that out there. So I just asked grandma, I was like, you know, none of the cousins really come over anymore. Like, you know, can I just have these? Sure. So I took them home, and I don't think these things have, you know what? Maybe they could have started after that. Who the fuck knows? Because the timeline does make sense at that point of experiences. So there is that. And then the culmination of this story ends with me talking to two of my best friends that I met online and I still talk to this day. We love to prank call. Again, like I said, I was an edgelord. I like to get reactions out of people. You know, this was 2005 on the internet. Okay. I mean, it was a very different landscape back then. So moving on a few years after I met these guys, you know, like we would prank call GameStop. Our favorite thing was to prank call GameStop and ask for Battletoads. If you go look on you, do you know anything about this?
No.
So tangent, guys. Battletoads is a game on the Super Nintendo and the Genesis. It is a co-op game where you're three toads named Rash, Pimple, and Zit. And you're trying to, you know, they're like teenage, it's like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but they're toads. And it's one of the hardest games of all time. And it obviously it was a retro game. GameStop doesn't sell retro games. So the idea behind this prank call, and there's no reasoning, it's just a silly, stupid, you know, I'm wearing etnies and I hang out at Hot Topic when they used to give out the black bags of yarn with living dead dolls and trip. I mean, it was just that era of like against the grain, you know. Brandon's laughing because he knows what I'm talking about.
Oh God. Do you remember when Hot Topic had music blasting so loud and it was like a rave that was going on in there? And it was like you couldn't even tell where you were walking.
That was like the last era of like the real, like, we're going to put anarchy symbols on our bags and listen to punk rock and there's nothing you can do. And it's the stupidest thing looking back. But nowadays, it's all like rappers who are going against the grain to do. I don't even know what the pop culture music like wannabe go-to trend is, because when we were young, it was like the alternative, like punk. Yeah.
It's different variations of R&B and rap music.
Yeah, so back then, like the grow your hair long, F you dad, screw society. So anyway, we would the whole point, I'm sorry, this is such a tangent, but you call GameStop and you just ask for Battletoads. And it made no sense. So it was hilarious. It was the perfect thing for a 13-year-old boy to laugh at with his stupid friends. And we would continually call every GameStop in the country until we were known by name. We knew them by name. I knew the SKU number for Battletoads on Game Boy Advance. So I would call, be like, hi, this is Lucas from GameStop store X, Y, and Z. I need to do a SKU check with you real quick. I got a customer looking for a game. If you present yourself with conviction right away, they will believe you, right? There's 16-year-old kids working at GameStop. You know, I know about this. So anyway, they answer the phone, you know, and then they pull it up. It's SKU 911076. I remember it. So you look it up, and then Battletoads comes up on their 1998 Windows Pentium, not even a Pentium 2. And then they say, "Are you serious?" So we became masters at our craft in prank calling.
Oh, God.
So we decided, I told my friends about the ghost in my room. So we're like, you know, they're laughing. They're like, "Oh, dude, that's ridiculous." I'm like, "Yeah, right. What am I, fucking crazy?" So we called what we would call the Ghostbusters. We would call and we would multiply harass these psychic entities. And, you know, we'd call them and we would make up stories too. But this one, I was like, you know what? I'm going to tell them a real story. So I told them every story that I told you guys about the moving things and X, Y, and Z. And I said that I had thought, you know, like maybe this is a poltergeist, but it's not throwing things at me. I thought maybe I was, what do I see? A boo? Anyway, so I call the Ghostbusters. I explain these stories, and they're like, well, you know, he could be, you know, a little kid. You know, these things don't sound malicious by any stretch. And I'm like, yeah, you know, he's not trying to possess me. I've tried to play Ouija with him.
like I tried to do the whole thing. Like, if you guys are familiar,
my feelings about that.
I know, and I'm about to just shit on his parade, because when you listen to me hear this, you're probably cringing very hard. It might even hurt you when I say it, but like, I just
thing. Yeah,
that's just how I felt like at the time. So I just, was goofy about it. I just was goofing off with my friends. So we call the Ghostbusters. I tell them the whole story, and then they're like, all right, well, we're going to have you tell us the story again, but we want to record it. We want to listen back. We want to look at the level. We want to look at our PKE levels, if that was a thing. I don't know. And I'm like, okay. So I tell them the story again. They record it. And my brother comes downstairs. Like, I told him what we were doing and how hilarious it was. I'm like, then I tell him, he comes downstairs and he goes, like, he opens the door and he goes, about to walk down. He says, hey, are you guys still prank calling the Ghostbusters? And I'm like, oh God, we're had, because my two friends heard it clear as day, what he had said. And the Ghostbusters just go, oh wait, we heard something. And I'm like, oh God, the sham is up. So they go to play back the recording, and coincidentally, this is just so funny that it lined up like this, guys. At the time, I'm telling the story, and I'm like, if you're here, why don't you show yourself? I kept continually asking him to appear. Like, I don't, I just need some sign. And then as I'm still telling the story, my brother opens the door, says, you still calling? And then they say, oh, we heard something. We got to stop it. Play it back. And sure enough, they didn't hear what I heard. They heard my brother saying good luck to me having the ghost reveal himself. So through all these years, I have chalked up all of this to, oh, your eyes are big, because my thing is that they were just lying to me to get me to have a ghostly psychic visit so they could exercise the place. Because they lived in,
I don't think so.
They lived in like Miami, we're on the other side of the country. I had told them that from the get-go. And then after this recording, they said that, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to tell you guys what's up, because I just, have been trying to, get a reaction out of it. Like, I straight up told them, because I'm a kid. Like, obviously they were stories that I couldn't explain, but, I still didn't believe in ghosts. So I told them, like, that we just wanted to hear what you guys would say, basically, to put it nicely. And they were like, listen, we're going to hang up on you because we're actually professional and we're not here for this. Like, you just wasted our valuable time. And like, you just messed with the spirit world or something along those lines. And it was something straight out of a horror movie. Now, nothing since then has happened, like literally zero occurrence, other than like that wind chime thing, which is a house settling, because it's literally hanging on a hook on a baseboard of the ceiling of an old ass house. But maybe it isn't malicious, because maybe it's a real ghost who is related to me, who is my family, who I don't know. I don't understand, but it was weird. But I like that your eyes lit up so hard at the end of the story, because we had the most polar of the whole episode. That was the most polar, because to me, that was conclusive proof that it's wrong. And to you, that was like, oh, you're fucking stupid. Because constantly, like before, like I would berate this like so-called ghost on like this phone call, because again, I was making, like, my friends were muted obviously, but they recorded the call. It's long since lost in obscurity of Windows XP machines. I really wish we had the recording, but like they record, and you can just hear them dying with laughter the whole time, because like I was a kid, it was funny, it was entertaining. You like validity, you like to be told that what you're saying is right and hilarious. So there's a lot of layers to the story. I look at it as just a comedic bunch of intricate timing, but maybe you guys are looking at me as the biggest idiot ever, like Brandon is right now. So that is pretty much the culmination of my ghost story experience that I have. That was the only like unexplained stuff really that I have. What light do you make of that before you finish off with the granddaddy story?
I don't know.
Longer than I thought.
It's
because there's some new pieces of information in there that you didn't know about.
They are not basically, as soon as you let them know it was a joke, they were done with it. They weren't going to waste their time anymore. That would have let them know that they were wasting their time way before doing any work. When they heard your brother say that, they're not going to keep doing that. I mean, again, I'm speculating, but if it were me, like, I'd be like, no, you guys are screwing with us. Bye. Like, you're not going to ever be able to try. And they don't traditionally, ghost hunters don't charge anybody. It's all on themselves. They're doing it for fun or research for themselves. So they're not like usually charging people for that kind of thing. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me why they would lie about what they heard. It just sounds really strange to me that they heard something different. Because it just, I don't know. I don't know what that means exactly, but
I don't know. Maybe they didn't hear it. Maybe they heard something I didn't hear. I don't know. And even then, I don't know how you could record a phone conversation and hear it, though. I mean, even if, in a perfect ghost hunting world, I just don't get it.
Could be that the audio is bad or whatever. I don't know.
I mean, this is like 2006. So, I mean, this is a long time ago, to be fair.
Right.
2007-ish. I don't know.
If your end to the story was you telling them that they're trash or whatever, and them saying, well, let us prove to you that we're not. How about we come up to Michigan and, and it's only going to cost $99.99, and we promise we're going to, if you're not fully satisfied, like if they started selling to you, that would be one thing, but they weren't. They were like, we're professionals. Bye.
No, they cut us off real fast. And again, guys, I would never do this as an adult. Okay. I would never, even if I don't believe, which I don't necessarily, I gotta say that. I would never waste, or not even in that, I wouldn't waste my time to be that funny, because that's not. Again, this is years ago. So have at it what you will, but that is how that went.
When I was a kid, probably around that age, we thought it was funny, and it wasn't at all, to call 1-800 Taco Bell because it's a phone number. Well, they'll just talk to you. And we were like, can you transfer us to the Taco Bell on Rodeo Drive? Like, it wasn't funny at all. You know what I mean? Like we thought that was so funny.
Like Battletoads.
They were like, spell Rodeo Drive, and we're like RODEO. And we went with it for a little bit because Rodeo Drive is like a, really fancy area of Los Angeles. Like, there's not going to be a Taco Bell there. And we thought that was so funny. I don't know why. It's so stupid. And then they were like, said something like, we have determined this is a prank call, so you're going to be blocked in the future. And then they hung up. So,
or Xbox customer support during the Red Ring era was one of my absolute favorites to prank call with the guys. Oh God. Cause it was the heyday of like call centers just becoming Indian. And it was, oh God, we had it. Cause that was before there was probably this like multifaceted level training that they have today for these phone lines. But God, yeah. The amount of the prank calls we did back then were stupid. But I think for time's sake, we need to get to your scary story.
Yeah. I'm unfortunately running out of time, but
I know.
Or I'm already like 20 minutes ran out, but whatever. So this my friends and I, we used to do like some urban exploration. We would go into abandoned buildings, more so abandoned psychiatric hospitals, and we thought that was awesome. And this actually all started on Halloween a number of years ago. That was the first time that we went to Elouise, and basically we got into one building. Well,
that's perfect timing for it. That would be very spooky.
Yes, correct. We got into one building, and just one. It was the easy one to get into. That was right next to the Kroger parking lot. And you know, it was like just like a cool Halloween thing to do. Nothing happened except for security chasing us down. But like a week or two later, we went back, and it was me and 2 other friends at that point, and we really devoted some time to actually going in and exploring the 3 remaining buildings of the psychiatric hospital. Unfortunately, we never got into the 3rd building, but the first 2 we did. And the first one, again, we went into there. It's the easiest one to get into. The door is broken on it. Nothing weird in there other than it's just being, you know, you're like, hey, it's the fire department that was here for the psychiatric hospital, because it was like a city in and of itself. It had to be fully functioning. It had its own police department, fire department, you know, own medical center, whatever, you name it. So it was like a self-serving city. Now it's mostly a golf course with only a few buildings standing, and now they're actually probably those 3 buildings aren't standing anymore at all either. But so we went in there a few weeks later, and in order to get into the 2nd building, which was the bakery, we had to climb up a tree. First off, actually, let me take a step back. We had to go to a fence that had already been cut by somebody with bolt cutters. You know, open the fence up, go in through the back, climb up a tree that was next to the building that also had a fence wrapped around it for some reason. It's all about the fences. And in through the 2nd-story window, which all the 2nd-story windows were broken out. All the 1st-story windows are boarded up. So they're trying to keep people out. So whatever. So we climbed up it. I'm not super agile of a person, but I managed to do it. We got inside, and immediately 2 things hit us right away. That one, the floor was dangerous because there was massive holes in it that you had to watch out for.
That is absolutely terrifying. There's no way you could get me to do that. As a kid, yeah, okay, yes. As a teenager, for sure. As an adult, no. Fuck no.
Yeah. I mean, I was a teenager.
That thing could cave in, man.
Teenager in the fact that I was like 19.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so...
Older teenager then. Very old. The oldest teen you could possibly be.
Correct. So yeah, there's huge holes. I have pictures of all of the stuff I speak of, so we'll put those up here so you can check them out. And so that hit us, how dangerous our footing was, and we had to be careful. And number 2 was how hard it was to breathe in this building, which was very strange because all the windows on the 2nd floor were busted out, and it was a cold night. You know what I mean? This was during the fall, and it had every reason to be the greatest breathing air conditions, and it wasn't. It just felt weird and heavy, and it was hard to breathe. And as we moved down the stairs into, you know, exploring the other parts of this, it continued, but at least downstairs it makes sense that it would be hard to breathe down there because all the windows were boarded up and it was pitch black. But basically we walked around, and, you know, we called out to any potential spirits that could be there. There was a heaviness in the air for sure. But we didn't necessarily see or hear anything necessarily at that point. There was, we were constantly taking pictures. This was the age of digital cameras. So all the pictures are taken with digital cameras with flash. So you see a lot of dust particles everywhere. And some people would say, those are orbs. Those are not orbs. They are dust particles, but they're just everywhere. Exactly. Yep. Everywhere. All these dust particles, probably, more than dust particles, probably asbestos particles that we were just freely breathing in. We should have been wearing masks probably, but, you know, I'll care 10 years from now when I get cancer. Not now. Yes. And so we just walked around. We explored for a while. We called out to the spirits. We found a cool little freezer that was there that was obviously no longer operational, but the door closed a little bit. And each of us, one at a time, went and stood in there in the dark. We turned off the flashlight alone.
Fucking terrifying.
And we kind of were trying to, summon something to happen, right? So my experience was probably like, hey guys, what's going on? You want to show me something? No? Okay, bye. And my friend Mike, I don't know what he did, but Tom, now he had a very different approach, and he was trying to rile them up, trying to antagonize anything that could possibly be there. It's one of those things where they say to only do it if you know what you're doing, because you need to also, if you do end up antagonizing something to a point of doing something to you, you have to also talk them down. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. So it's like, you're not really supposed to be doing this kind of thing. And we weren't on board with it, but he did it. And so he started calling. He went into the freezer, door partially closed. We're standing outside. We still see him in there though. And he starts calling them stupid, lazy bitches and whatever. I don't know. He started just going all over the place. Like, you guys aren't shit. I'm not afraid of you, you pieces of garbage, whatever. He was trying his best to antagonize. He was yelling, screaming, swearing. And he comes out and he was like, nothing. And we're like, all right. And so we did a little bit more exploring, and all of a sudden he started grabbing towards his back. And he was like, I think I was bit by something or something. I don't know what's going on. And we were like, oh, maybe you were scratched. You know what I mean? We're like, that'd be so good. And he's just like, yeah, whatever. And so he pulled up the back of his shirt, and we started looking at it with our flashlights, and we're like, Tom, you are scratched. And he was like, you guys are screwing with me. And we're like, we are not screwing with you. And he's like, guys, seriously, like, stop. It's not funny. And I was like, I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to show you. So I took a picture of it, still have it to this day. It's right here. And it was, I showed it to him, and he was absolutely shocked. It was a really weird situation. I have gone over this picture time and time again. I just went again over it the other day when I looked at it again to see if there's any possible way that he could get his hand up in a certain way to scratch himself. And I just don't see it, mostly because Tom, I don't know if he is now, but at the time he was a big nail biter. And so he had them down to the stubs. And so it's like, don't know how he did it. They're obviously 4 fingernails. It was, it's red, it's a bit inflamed, and he kept denying it. And what ended up happening after that point was particularly strange. I still don't understand what happened there today. I'm happy that I had another person there that was like normal experiencing this with me, because Tom got weird. That's the only way to explain it. He started saying that he was really cold. I said Tom and Siri came up. That's so weird. Anyway,
what an idiot.
That's not your name. Anyway, so he started acting weird. He started saying he was really, really, really cold. And then he started saying he was super hot and he had to sit down. So we walked up to the top of the stairs. It was cooler up there, you'd think. And we're standing behind him. He's sitting on the very top of the stairs. And then he starts saying something really particularly strange. And that was that he felt like he was burning from the inside out. And that was the last thing he said to us before he just completely stopped talking. And he's just sitting there. He's being completely unresponsive. His eyes are open, but he's being completely unresponsive. And me and Mike are like, what are we gonna do? Like, what's going on here? How are we even going to get him out of this building? Because he's not moving. Like, we're like, Tom. And he was just not listening to us. He wasn't even responding. And it was so weird. Again, still to this day, I don't know what was going on there. And we're just kind of like, what the hell? And so we actually, after a long time, it felt like an hour. It was probably 20 minutes. We just started grabbing him and pulling him up, like further, closer towards the window. And eventually he just like started snapping out of it. And he stood up and he was like, we gotta leave. And we're like, okay, sounds good. And he just goes towards the window and he jumps out the window. No, he got up in the window, shimmied down, got outside. Mike and I were like, who's going next? And Mike's like, I'm not going to be the last one left in this building. Bye. And then he goes up to the window and he shimmies down and he gets out. And I had a moment where I was sitting inside this building all alone by myself. That's terrifying. Right? It was. And I'm like looking around and I'm like, this is just the perfect time for something to happen to me. I'm sure. And so I had my flashlight and I turned it down because right in front of me, there was one of those big holes in the ground. So I shined it right down into that hole. And all of a sudden, let's see here. All of a sudden, this is basically what I see. I see this and I see something ran right across my flashlight that was shining down in that hole and completely blocked out the light for a second and then disappeared. And now my mind starts going crazy because to me, it looked like it was some big thing. It was big. That's what it looked like to me. Because, you're shining down, some big thing blocks out the light and then it's gone.
Yeah.
And then at that point I went, bye. And so I just went for as hard as I could towards that window. I turned around. I started shimmying out. I ended up slipping. I fell.
You were in such a haste to get the hell out of there.
Yes. So I was in such a haste, and also I am afraid of heights as well. Okay. So it was two things mixed together, two very stupid things mixed together. And you had to step down in such a particular way, get your foot down onto this tree and then shimmy down the tree. And my foot missed the tree. It hit nothing. And then I slipped because I'm just holding my entire weight with my fingers. And I slipped halfway down. That fence I talked about grabbed my jeans, slowed my descent, probably saved my life. And it ripped up the side of my entire jeans. I hit the ground to cement, for anybody wondering. So it was a 15-foot fall from window down to cement. I smashed down on my side. At the time I didn't know it. I just knew that I had like pain. I demolished all of my ribs and on the one side. And Tom was a bit in a haze, and then all of a sudden, as soon as he saw I was hurt, he snapped out of his weird haze. And he went into paramedic mode. And because he was training to be a paramedic and he was helping me, he's like, don't move. I'm gonna check you out, this whole kind of thing, your neck could be broken, all this kind of stuff. So he helped me out. Luckily my neck wasn't broken. And I was able to get up and sort of start moving on our way towards the car. And I didn't notice how bad of shape I was in until later on that night. I saw certain things like my pants were ripped and I hurt. But we're halfway into the parking lot going towards the car, and all of a sudden the fence that we used, that somebody had already cut for us to get in, it rattled loud enough for us to turn around and look. And we literally saw the fence curl up and then slam back down. And we were both like, both. All three of us were like, I don't know what that is, but we don't care anymore at this point. Let's get out of here. And
Yeah,
we got
that's
out
like
of
its
there.
final like good riddance, like get out of my place.
Yeah. And exactly. And it was just so weird. And, you know, like I said, it turned out I broke my ribs, and that whole situation, maybe we'll talk about it at some point. That whole situation put me down the worst possible spiral in life ever. It changed my life. That moment changed my life.
I think that's what that culmination makes the story like really frightening, because I would say, and I mean, I don't want to again get meta about this, but if you really think about it, like in terms of what you went through after this specific turning point, like what a literal personal demon that you had.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes the story overall the scariest, really. To me anyway.
Yeah, I agree. It started right from that point moving forward. So, you know, to just hint at it for anybody going, what? I was in a lot of pain, and I needed to get out of that pain. Unfortunately, the doctor prescribed me naproxen. I had broken bones. That wasn't good enough. So I, for the first time in my life, I went and found other means, and it was a very, very bad situation. So yeah, that's fun. Anyway, ending on a lighthearted note. I will say this real quickly, that was not the only mental institution that we explored. A couple years later, I went with Mike. Tom wasn't there anymore, and another guy, Steve. We went to Northville Psychiatric Hospital. We explored the hell out of it. It's much bigger, much creepier in the way that it looks, but we felt nothing. We had no weird experiences. It didn't feel heavy at all. It felt like, you know, like what you're seeing in front of you is very stereotypically scary, you know, like the weird chairs sitting in the hallway.
Like a dilapidated setting.
Yeah, it's a hospital. Everything is still there. There was a surgical like theater in there, and
that is absolutely terrifying.
It's just everything is still there. They just picked up and moved out when it closed in 2003, I think. So everything is still there. It's still in like all the the way that it was left. So you'd see creepy things, but nothing felt creepy. You didn't hear any sounds or see anything or whatever. You felt completely like, I feel like nothing's here kind of thing. Elouise was so different. It was a fraction of the amount of buildings that Northville had, and it felt heavy right from the start. Why? I don't know.
Unexplainable.
It is unexplainable. But, I want to thank everybody for joining us and
thank you
sitting
all
through our ramblings.
This was an interesting episode. I think it was perfect to have that, like, hi Boo, to have oh my god, there's this one Chris Hansen thing where he walks in on the Predator unsuspectingly and goes, hey Boo, and that just made me think of that.
Oh really? Hey Boo, hey. Would you like some milk with those cookies? So it was a pretty good Chris Hansen. I never even tried that before.
Like some milk with those cookies?
Did you bring condoms?
And what were you going to do with those condoms, Brandon?
You have juice. Were you going to use it? Whatever that. It's become Keith Morrison. It's like, ooh, oh, spooky.
You're ridiculous.
So you murdered him, did you? Did you like it?
Brandon. So just to let you guys know, he's almost an hour late for said appointment that he had to leave for. So why are you still here? Why am I
still here? Why are you still here?
I got to get ready to get going soon. So
yes, you do.
We're going to end the episode. We got more coming up for the Halloween season. I don't know what we're going to do next. We got it all in the pipeline, guys.
We're getting spooky, baby.
Oh yeah. So
yeah.
anyways, guys, thanks for watching. As always,
Yes.
let us know if you have any crazy ghost stories.
Please.
Because I only have a few unexplained ones, but it is what it is, guys. You skeptic or you believer.
We will respond.
Tune in and find out next week.
And you'll know whether the response you get, if it's like, ooh, that's really cool, or
yeah,
that's not that cool. You'll know immediately which one of us it is responding. But yes, thank you, everybody.
We appreciate it, guys. Take care.